across the studio. James Credence awaiting truth or fake. How are you, sir?
Very well, Mark.
Great to see. That's the truth, and that's good. Now then, you're talking about fake news concerning the war in Syria, how it's appeared on TikTok, which of course targets young audiences.
That's right. So TikTok, it's a lot of dance videos, makeup tutorials, but also sometimes content, for example, on the war in Syria, right? But it is more for a younger audience, and it's more about entertainment, these short little videos. You can make yourself a lot of the time. So diverse content, young audience for the most part. But let's take a look at this video that got an awful lot of traction in February 2021. Let's take a look.
Mr. Trump, please! Please stop this! Stop this! Please do something!
So, Syrian woman begs Trump to stop Biden, right? This was all in the aftermath of the first strikes under the Biden presidency in Syria. In fact, that video, Mark, took place, you can see here, the same video. This was if we look a little bit more closely, this was in July 2019, so it's about a year and a half before the video as it was presented there in that fake video on Twitter. It got lots of shares all over the place. As I said, very popular in the aftermath of the first bombings under the Biden presidency. She's a humanitarian worker, Syrian American. Those strikes took place in the Syrian city of Marat al-Numan, and it was when Donald Trump was president. She was appealing to him to do something about what were likely Russian Syrian strikes in that city. But this was completely misrepresented as somebody trying to appealing to Donald Trump to do something about Biden's actions in the country. A total and utter misrepresentation, Mark.
Any idea who actually did it, or whether it was
getting
by
back
error?
to the root of it? Difficult, but it ended up on an awful lot of different accounts.
So classic example of fake news,
Yes.
but there are more subtle examples.
That's right. So that's kind of just standard fake news. But there's, I suppose, the close cousin of it, which is misinformation. And there's a lot of this appearing now on TikTok because your target, you have a ready young audience. And so videos, if they're generated in a snappy, engaging manner, talking about issues and social issues, political issues, you're going to engage with that younger audience. So there is a space for political propaganda on TikTok that wouldn't necessarily identify itself as such, right? Because that's the whole point. There's meant to be an element of subterfuge. Now, we'll take a look at one video here. If I can get it back to the beginning of that video. This is, did Trump bomb Syria? So there's all sorts of different videos that have been put up in this one. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get the audio here. Let's see if we can.
It takes a strong man. It takes a strong leader. Mr. Trump, I call you, please.
All right, I think we have some audio trouble there. We can just maybe cut the audio and I'll explain what this video is claiming to show. She says that the chemical strikes in Syria back in, if you remember, there were chemical strikes in the city of Douma. 40 people reported to have died. It was what sort of was the argument for Western strikes targeting the Assad regime. Now, she gives this whole spiel in this video about how those strikes never happened. She cites WikiLeaks in particular and other sources. Now, you could argue that WikiLeaks, some of their data dumps regarding the organization which is the chemical watchdog, the organization for the prohibition of chemical weapons. You could argue that some of that content is worth noting, but she presents those chemical strikes as being a complete fiction, and that they were invented to justify Western intervention, if you like. Now, that's just one example of it's a complex example, but you're dealing with complex issues, and what's being presented is black or white sort of versions of events. And right down through this Soapbox page, it's called Soapbox, you can find it across several social media. It's a very anti-American establishment editorial line. Now, that could be, you have a lot of, activists within America who are maybe left of the political spectrum, people who would be very critical of the military-industrial complex, the powers that be. So young people who would have a rebellious streak, an anti-establishment streak, could really connect with this sort of content. But what they might not realize is that this content is perhaps associated with the Russian state. Now, on Twitter, they have flagged it as such. You can see here the same account, basically, Russia state-affiliated media. Now, there's been a legal battle going on over whether or not that sort of labelling is fair. On Facebook, that's the label that they've now been, I suppose, stamped with. Also on Twitter, but not on TikTok. So if you're a user of TikTok looking at videos like that, you really might not question the source of that sort of point of view. That's not to say that some of the issues they draw attention to don't have some validity. There might be grey zones, but the way they're presenting it does not indicate necessarily the who is backing them and what the point of view that they're coming from. Now, it's worth pointing out that Soapbox is one of several media. In the Now is another that is affiliated to an organisation called, if I can get my notes together, Mafik Media. Now, Mafik Media, they have uncovered. It's like Russian dolls, and that's perhaps a well-chosen metaphor. Soapbox and In the Now, they're the smallest of the Russian dolls. Above them, you have Mafik. That belongs to Rukli TV, and that's a subsidiary of Russia Today based in Berlin. So you do have documents indicating, if you like, the ownership of Mafik, and certainly there are clear indications of Russian affiliation. Now, they themselves on Twitter, for example, employees of Mafik say that this is complete rubbish, we're being falsely labelled. In fact, if you look at who owns us, it is a US citizen living in LA. So
clearly, deeply behind this is someone trying to divide, conquer, manipulate, and change people's views. James, thank you for enlightening that. We need to sort of stop it there.
Right.
James with Truth or Fake, illuminating as ever. Thank you, sir. Kate with the Business, thank you.